At the end of the day, equity in the public realm is there's a deep sense of responsibility to make places feel resonant with the people that they're serving. Every place should feel like it fits in its context because that's the only way people feel like they belong in it.
Does this space feel public? Does it feel like you have to pay to
Yeah.
be there? And if you do, that sort of points to the idea this isn't truly public, this isn't truly equitable.
I think access is so important. Understanding like how we like create these barriers to access in the ways that we design spaces, but also as the way we program those spaces as well.
What makes that welcoming to all communities? And that's something we have to learn. I am a minority myself, but I also had a fairly privileged background, in terms of my education and whatnot. Maybe gives me some confidence going into a public space that I have ownership of this space. Not everybody looks at public space that way. I think that programming layer of what's happening in that space allows you to occupy that space and not feel like someone's going to be watching you if you sit there with your friend. There's things we can do as designers, but I think the greatest success comes through when that owner or agency is also thinking about that next layer of stewardship of the space and how people are going to be invited in over time.
The food truck, there are movable tables and chairs, it's games. For Amazon, it's the banana cart, it's Woodland Park Zoo coming down, it's the markets that they have, it's the basketball court that they set up. That's fun. It's fun if you're 3 years old, that's fun if you're 70 years old. And it's just that public activity happening. Now you've created a buzz.
What types of programs would encourage your family to come? I equate it to like a subway in New York, where you see so many different cultures and people coming together and using a system. And so when I think about like what that would look like in a park, it would be a park that serves the wants and needs of many different people.
I really feel like it's important to see folks that look like you in those spaces, whether it's in the art, whether it's in the vendors, because some of these parks do have vendors, or whether it's just some of the cultural tones that are represented there. Having those elements, those specific cultural and intentional cultural elements, and having community design, I just think it makes it more of an equitable space because our ideas and our dreams are woven into the actual design.
I love public art, but at the end of the day, if the folks that are trying to be represented in sort of the cultural expression on the walls don't feel like they can just sit or get a sandwich or, whatever, take a call, then it's missing the actual intention of what was hoping to be represented there. So I like the art, and I like it more when there's actual people in front of it, yeah.
There is something about public space in Italy that feels so generous to people, to all people. It's much more people-centered. And I think when you're thinking about people, often you are starting to think in these ways that lead to healthier public spaces and more equitable public spaces. People really feel like they belong outside. They belong in the piazza, they belong in the street. With a more public way of living also comes maybe more ease with difference. But at the same time, Italy also just is such a different social context.
When I go to like Hing Hay Park, or I go here in Florida, the James Weldon Johnson Park, it's a place that is open to, I feel like, all community members, where everyone can feel like they have a safe space, whether you're someone who's strolling through during your business day and you're just grabbing a bite to eat, or if you're someone who's houseless and you have activities that you're able to participate in during the day, whether it's checkers or, whatever the case, because they have at both parks, they have activities for folks, for anyone. Even the names of both of those parks reflect the neighborhoods and the communities that they're serving, and really centers those cultures. I think that's really important. For James Weldon Johnson Park, it's based on, a Black man who wrote Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is the Black national anthem. And so that park is rooted in Blackness. So for me, automatically going to feel a connection.
We're doing our first national park, which I'm so excited about. It's Cuyahoga Valley National Park. They just bought 200 acres of a former golf course. We just finished the concept design phase. We found some incredible histories of Black people recreating in the valley over the course of the 20th century, Indigenous people living along the river. All this history of activism around the Cuyahoga River has really healed a lot of the ecological conditions of the river. And so now basically what we designed was a way to get people back to the river in a way that celebrates the indigenous and Black and the environmental advocates work.
Belle Isle in Detroit, hundreds of acres. Island of the River has, so many kind of different components, but in some ways it's also very free. Like it's not super structured. There's like a road that goes around and then some trails, but there's a lot of waterfront with and you just see every single kind of person doing every single thing there, which is very Olmstedian. I'm positioning it as like the quintessential Olmsted Park that people don't really, and by the way, because it's in Detroit, partly it's also a Black space. I don't know, it's just so interesting and rich, like the ways people use that park, and it's beloved.
India Basin project in the last Black neighborhood of San Francisco. My role for that project was doing a lot of the community engagement. At the beginning, we had to earn their trust to believe us when we were saying that we were there, to actually like understand what their needs and desires were for the park, and to help that identity become reflected as the core identity for the project.
India Basin, that's a project where there is a new physical place that's being, you could say, constructed anew, or you could say actually is really extending and amplifying things that have always been there. It didn't rely on the project team coming in, trying to invent a community structure through which everyone's going to suddenly find the great desire to participate, and then suddenly that's going to take everything forward. In 6 months, yes, maybe 3 months.
The process that India Basin is still going through with the Equitable Development Plan, that's like very public set of goals that the city has committed itself to, from transportation and access to jobs to youth opportunity to healthy ecology, art, identity, and there's something, and housing. All of them were seen through the lens of spatial justice. Every single part of this project, from the construction to the planning to the design to the running of the park once it's built, is going to help the existing Bayview community thrive in place. And they're real metrics that the city has made public and is committed to meeting. I mean, not only is it the largest investment in public space that the city of San Francisco has made, I think, since Golden Gate Park, but it's also just kind of has unique priorities in that it's really concerned with the effect of the project beyond the site. And it's going to be just it's 10 acres of a waterfront that's completely reclaimed. That's going to connect, the neighborhood of Bayview to the waterfront and to nature and to the community, to community members. So it was just super exciting. It was sort of like, you don't get those projects. They don't come along very often.
That project is now in construction. So it'll be exciting to see how that improves the community in the years to come.